Well, hey, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all to the 35th DEM I Wonder webinar. DEM is so many services, offering programs, and hidden gems that we want to share with all of you. So we're excited to take just a few minutes to highlight these features in our webinars. The Utah Division of Emergency Management is hosting this webinar series aimed at providing local emergency managers with relevant content and opportunities to enhance their capabilities and knowledge. Webinars are live for Q&A and are recorded for later viewing on the DEM website and YouTube channel. Some of these webinars are seminars or workshops with a hands-on portion, which will allow emergency managers to become oriented to DEM processes or test a DEM product. So our schedule today will be as follows. We'll start with our ground rules and some etiquette. Next, we'll have a brief presentation by Holly Strand on our new Utah Risk Map webpage. Following the presentation, the presenter will be available for the Q&A session. Following the Q&A, we will close with a short message about the upcoming webinar. Ground rules today are fairly simple. Please mute your line while the presenter is presenting. If you have a question, you may type it in the group chat or unmute at the appropriate time to ask your question. This session is being recorded and will be available on our website for future viewing. Thank you all for attendance today. And with that, I will turn the time over to Holly.
Hi, everyone. My name's Holly Strand, and I am a communication specialist with Risk Map, working with Jamie Huff, who I see made it on the call. So my background is in communications, science communications. And so I've been working here with Risk Map for a couple of years. And my first big assignment was to create a website. And this website went live in December. It's very fresh. We're calling it a soft opening because we still have a few fixes to make, but it's perfectly usable. So I'm going to encourage everyone who's interested in floodplain management and flood risk to use it. So before we go directly to the web page, I'd like to ask a few questions just to get to know your background. Since I haven't been with DEM for a terrible long time, I don't know everybody's background, and I just want to make sure that that we're all talking with the same amount of knowledge. So first of all, I'll have Jeff just ask a few polls, and then he'll read the responses, and that way I'll know more about you as an audience. Okay, Jeff?
Perfect. Yeah, so hey, for those who haven't used it, just go over a quick tutorial. There is in the right-hand corner a triangle, square, and a circle. That's where I will start the polls. If you will hit that and then go to polls, I will launch the first poll now. So if everybody will go to that and then just kind of answer questions, that'll help Holly know where to go. I figured it, Holly, because they're voting now.
Okay, so I see we've got sort of familiar, and we have two, and sort of familiar is fine, but for the people that said, what is it? This, let me just tell them really quickly what it is. Risk Map is an acronym, surprise. It's called Risk Mapping Assessment and Planning, Risk Map. And it's a federal emergency management program that provides communities with flood information products, risk assessment tools, planning, and outreach support. So, and primary output is maps, but there's also a lot of other things that we do for communities. But yeah, as the name implies, we mainly do. One of the biggest regulatory products is a floodplain map. So, okay, now you all know what it is. Okay, next question.
Okay, ended that one and launch the next.
Okay, we're good on that. Um, but I will mention something about floodplains that some people don't know. As you all know, it is the area near a river or creek which floods during significant rain event. But floodplains are also defined by probability that they will flood within a given period of time. So you can have a 10-year floodplain or a 100-year floodplain. If something is just a floodplain, you don't really, if you just say floodplain, you don't really know what kind of a flooding event it will flood at. So it's nice to define it using terms of probability in terms of time. Okay, so that's that. Number 3.
All right, number 3 has been launched. Okay,
so it looks like we've got 7 people who know and 4 people who don't. 4 people who don't. This talk is going to help you. This new website is going to help you. So you will turn into a yes in a few minutes. Okay, number 4.
All righty. I'm glad we're turning people into yeses. That's amazing,
Yeah.
Holly.
We want positive outcomes.
Number 4, launching now.
Okay, 10 people have professional reasons for knowing this. And so that's great. You'll find a lot of things that you'll be able to reference on the website. And for the person who said, no, you don't have any professional reasons, I'm guessing you might have a personal reason, as you may have property, and that property, or you may be renting. And it's good to know if you live on a floodplain. So everybody has a reason to know whether or not a property is on a floodplain. Yes, Jamie says everyone should be yes. We'd have to, yeah. Okay. Alrighty then. Well, now I feel like I kind of know my audience. Let's jump into the website, and I'll just show you some highlights. Okay, so I'm going to take the screen. And here we go. So the URL is floodhazards.utah.gov. And here we are on the home page. We have just a general description, but then right away you get, we are asking you to just, what kind of information do you need? So you don't have to click around several pages to find what you need. Do you need information just as a property owner? Are you a floodplain specialist and you have a lot of questions and you have a professional background on floodplain management? Are you looking particularly for mitigation resources? Then you can just go here. And I'm thinking, and right now we have a link to risk map deliverables, but I'm thinking we might have another population here before long. So this is kind of a placeholder for another population that I'm thinking of. But for right now, I'm thinking one of you will fall into one of these categories. You can find out on the homepage if your area has been mapped, and you can find out more about the project life cycle. What I do is I cycle back and forth between different platforms. So if you go here, you'll end up in a risk map story map. So, but I'll always open those in different tabs, so you can get back to the main website here. If for those of you who are familiar with Esri's story maps, this is one of those. And so I just go through the whole process. Risk map process is actually pretty complicated, and yeah, a lot of stops along the way. But here you can just go through all the slides and see. Oh, there's Jamie right there explaining. There's a lot of meetings involved. Anyway, you can go through the rest on your own. I just want you to know that that exists. There are a lot of the things that we have on this website are available through FEMA, but we've changed the language. I like to use a very simple language. I like to use a lot of pictures and just make it more into a Utah context. So you're not going to see any pictures of the Mississippi River on here, which all the FEMA risk map sites seem to have. The big eastern rivers that are flooding massive amounts of area. This site is for Utahns and designed specifically for us. So, okay, one other thing I want to mention that's on this page is if you live or if you are in one of these counties or in the Great Salt Lake environs, there are active projects going on near you. And for each of these projects, I'm just listing all the project materials that go on in each phase. And and you can see where we are in the phase. And then you can see the agendas, the presentations that were made in each phase, the LiDAR collected, where you can find the LiDAR information that was collected for this project. And then we just go through each phase and have all these documents. So, and then a link to the FEMA's Map Service Center. So we found that these are very useful for the counties, the areas that are deep into projects. And as you can see, we've got 3 more coming. So if you live in the Wasatch Uinta area, the Greater Sevier area, or the Provo Utah County area, we got stuff coming for you. All right. So that's just the home page. Oh, and you can get to those up here as well at the top of the navigation bar. Just really quickly, I just want to show you the property owners page. This is was very careful with my language here. It's no acronyms. Just trying to help people find out if their property is in a floodplain, and then if it is, how to reduce their risk. And very detailed explanation how to read and understand flood maps. One thing that you might be interested in, that other people might be interested in, is how to understand risk based by zone. And so if you, as a floodplain manager or an emergency manager, have to explain flood risk to somebody else, you might come to this site to help you. We talk about what the special flood hazard areas are, what color they are on the map, what A zones mean, the different types, different types of A zones. What's a V zone if people live near Great Salt Lake or a Utah lake? Those are the only places we have V zones or V zones in Utah. And yeah, so anyway, I think this is a good tool for explaining, for people who need to explain flood risk and flood zones to other people, as well as homeowners who are trying to figure out what that code is on the map next to their house. Okay, so floodplain specialists. I did sense from the answers to the questions, we have a lot of floodplain specialists on this call. So this page, I think you will really like it. How it was made, it's just a question and answer with accordion tabs. Sometimes there's quite a lot of information in each accordion tab. So there's really a ton of information here. How we decided on the questions. This is just me listening to Jamie explain risk map to people in different projects over and over, and these are the questions they ask. So I think you'll find it very interesting. There's a section on just the process, how to use the flood maps, revisions and appeals, risk map communications. I'm going to be putting a lot more stuff into here as we go along. special risk conditions. That is, why do I have to scroll? I can just go down directly down there. Wildlife scars, alluvial fans and levees. There's not a lot of information here, but there's some, and these may end up being pages soon, because we have a lot more information than what we actually show here. So, and then floodplain news. Once I get this completely tied up in a bow, this website, I'm going to start sending out information through our blog. So I hope you won't mind if you get some notifications from me. I'll probably take the Jeff's mailing list and as part of who I send this blog to, and then you can opt out if you want, if that's okay. All right, so that's the floodplain specialist page, and then finally we have the mitigation page, and so we have links to our mitigation program, and then we have we'll be having some case studies that will come, that I'll be developing, that will be under this tab. More about fire scars mitigation and alluvial fan mitigation. And then I want to direct you down to this part where we have resource guides for grants. So if you need money, these are great. All of these are great resources, and they go through all the federal and local resources available for mitigation. Okay. Let's see. There is, and also we have, often needed FEMA links as well up here in the navigation bar. So it's not huge right now, but I think it covers what we needed to get a website started. To be able to make both this site and the project sites, and to do a lot of the communications we'll be doing in the future. I just want to show you something I'm developing on the side, and that is a flood multimedia library. And if you have, I'm just starting to build this, so this is kind of a year-long project, and then I'll keep adding to it. But if you have flood information or flood video, or let's say, photos, or anything you could that you think might be useful for other people to know, let me know, and I will upload it into our database. And if you need these things, I can you can come to me, and I can help you get the visual information that you need. If it's not licensed, so that that I'm prohibited to share information. A lot of this stuff I buy. A lot, like this is a bought image through a stock photo company, and so I cannot share it with you. But the things I can share, I definitely will. So I'm collecting templates, pictures of mitigation. I don't have much there, so if you have pictures of mitigation, please share it with me. Actually, I have a lot. I just haven't uploaded it here yet. I've got images. I'm starting with 2021 with flood images. So, all of you who are out on the ground and get good flood images, send them on. If I can use them, I would appreciate it. And then other people can use them too. I've got licensed flood images, Utah landscapes, which I use to make our project websites. And then I've got a lot of graphics going with icons and illustrations and logos, and yeah. So anyway, that is something I'm working on. And before we go on, let me just ask you if you have any questions. because that's pretty much the site as it is now. And then I'm going to
Holly.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jamie. I know that we had a couple people that didn't know how to look at a flood map or review the flood map. Do you want to just go quickly over that really fast, just to show where to go so they can go work on the website afterwards or look it up on the website after?
Okay. Yes, and I kind of alluded to some things, but it wasn't as clear as I could have been because there's a lot of different information. Yeah, I didn't take you exactly step by step through that. So the best way to go now to see if you have to look at the flood hazard layer, which is a map of the entire United States and flood hazard. You can go here, but if you've never done this before, I would say you should go to the property owners page. And here we have kind of more user-friendly links towards going through the process of finding out if you're in a mapped floodplain, and then down here, then how to understand what you're seeing when you're looking up the information. So, and you might even want to download this fact sheet. It's how to check your property online, and then there are detailed instructions there. And then I would go to this site, the significance of the special flood hazard zones, and see. So you can see what colors are used on the map and what they mean, and what the different codes mean. So that's what I would do if you've never looked to see what your flood risk is, and you're just getting started. There again, detailed instructions for checking for floodplains. I've done a little bit of duplication on purpose, just because it's, different people think different ways, and some people are going to go directly down here, and some people are going to start up here. So yeah. Anyway, I would start on the property owners page, and that's how you would do it. What we could do, I'm going to show you something. I'll just go show you what this looks like anyway. So let's say we want to look at, I don't know, Salt Lake City is where I am. So one thing that is, and then you just have to go way, way deep into Salt Lake City. You have to go really, really far in. And these are the kinds of things I explain in the PDFs the PDF that you can download. It takes a long time for information to come up. There we go. This was actually kind of fast for this database, but and you have to go way in to be able to see it. But there you can see the information is beginning to pop up, and then you can just kind of move it around. I like to look through the NFHL viewer. It's the National Flood Hazard Layer Viewer. And this one's being really slow lately, but there should be a box up here that appears where you put your address in again, and then again you move on down to your area of interest, and you can get a lot of information out of it. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit when I talk about future enhancements to the site. So let me get to that part. But does anybody have any questions about, what I've shown so far? And nothing? Okay. What I'm going to do next is let's see, I didn't have the chat open, so if there were any questions, I wouldn't know. Oh, thank you, Jamie. Jamie posted the link in the chat box. So next, I'm going to show you what I have planned to enhance the website, and then we're going to go to the Jamboard, and if you can, and then I'm going to ask you your opinion on whether those things would be what I'm thinking would be useful, and what would be most useful to you. And then I'm going to also ask you if you have any other ideas about what we should put on this new flood risk website. So let's do that. Okay, I'm going to go to, I'm going to share again. Okay, and I like descriptive titles. All right, so remember, as we go through these, there's going to be 7 of them. These are the additions that I'm thinking of doing. Remember which ones you like. I'm going to ask you at the end which 3 you think would be most useful for you. Or you can also, or you'll also be able to add on the side what things that I don't even mention, what would be useful for you. Okay. So the first thing that I think we need is levee risk, a site that talks about levee risk. I'm thinking you all know what levees are, but in case you don't, they are structures, either natural or artificial, that usually run parallel to the course of a river in its floodplain or along low-lying coastlines. And the purpose is to protect against flood in the area adjoining the rivers or the river or a coast. And many people kind of think of them as being something that you find along the Mississippi River, the Ohio or Missouri, and something. It's an eastern thing, but but they are everywhere. Everywhere you have rivers, there are levee systems. Unfortunately, they are not always sound. They are not always certified. Or they will only hold back water with a small rain event. Here's an example of what happened in 2011 when Ogden River busted through some levees and created a widespread flood. And this isn't the first and only time it's happened in Utah. Oops. So anyway, what I would do is one idea I'm having is to create a web page, especially about levees, talking about how you find out if you're near a levee, and what to do to make your community more safe if you have levees. Okay. Project number 2, alluvial fans, and I'm sure many of you have heard Jamie talk about alluvial fans. They are the fan-shaped deposit at the mouth of a canyon. They're deposits of gravel, sand, and even smaller particles such as silt, or they could be rocks. They also move rocks sometimes. So anyway, they're very nice features. They're everywhere in Utah. Everywhere we have a canyon, we've got an alluvial fan. Here's a fan that I saw on the Strawberry Creek. And this one, you can see it was affected by the Dollar Ridge fire. It's not a very particularly big drainage, but because of the fire, there's nothing to hold back the erosion during a big rain event. And there have been several rain events and several floods and lots of alluvial fan buildup since that Dollar Ridge fire. Now the problem is there are these alluvial fans aren't always in a nice place like Strawberry Creek without a house at the base. There are often there's a lot of development along the Wasatch Front and other areas of Utah. So this is a picture I took from the plane, and you can see this is north of Provo. You can see alluvial fan build up here and here and up here. And basically oops, go back. Any place you have even a small drainage area. I mean, there's a tiny little alluvial fan there, but we don't worry about those. We worry about these big ones, and especially where there's nothing. In case of a fire, there's going to be significant flows, or even without a fire, you can have a huge rain event and still have trouble on the fan. We have alluvial fan debris flows, I think, most years in different places. This is one that was really well documented. It was in Santaquin. So it was after a fire, some rains, the year after a fire, rains hit the canyon, and there was significant damage, lots of homes affected, cars buried, and it was a mess. Okay, so anyway, let me go back and just mention that, just to wrap up alluvial fans, I think that's something that we really need a full site for, and more multimedia materials. So I'm going to see if you agree with me later. Okay, now, idea number 3, or project number 3. It is the reason I'm thinking of doing an interactive map for floodplain risk just for Utah is because this viewer that I was showing you before is sometimes so slow as to be actually unusable. And this is a message I'm always seeing these days. Slow performance, working to resolve the issue. Sometimes the only time I can get on is at Sunday afternoon and get a quick response time. So I'm thinking of together with our GIS people, just do a smaller cutout for Utah, and where you can zoom in a bit. I mean, you don't have to zoom into Utah. It's not bringing up the entire country from Maine to Guam. I don't even know if it does Guam, but Hawaii. You'd just be looking at Utah, and that will the page will load quicker. Okay, idea number 4. What does a floodplain manager do, and especially what does a floodplain manager, what kind of responsibilities would they have with floodplain mapping? We answer some of that stuff in the website now, but it's not particularly, it's kind of general. It's not laid out particularly for a floodplain manager. So that's an idea of something to add. Number 5, how to take into account projected change in flood risk, especially with, we project change with flood risk due to climate change, but that is not reflected in the maps now. We also project change because of population growth, and that's not reflected. So we could have a section on how to deal with projected change. Yeah. Okay. 6, just more general information on flood types, history, and ubiquity, how ubiquitous they are, how common they are, and the costs. A lot of, when we have public meetings, a lot of people will say, well, we don't have flood risk here. And we, because we're in the business, we know that they do. And we might even know of a history that they don't know about. So anyway, that's something we can develop if that's of interest to you. And finally, and this isn't a particular, doesn't necessarily have to be a video of how to read a flood map, but we're thinking of using more video to explain concepts and processes. So I'm going to ask you if you feel that that would be something of interest to you. Okay, so let's move out of here. Jeff, are you awake?
I am.
Great. Could you bring up the Jamboard, please?
I would love to. Give me one sec.
And while he was doing that, I wanted to wait a little bit to hear some folks' thoughts on what they're interested in, but wanted to circle back just for a second on the professional need to look up flood risk. And I really do, in my heart of hearts, think everyone on this call does have a professional need, whether you know it or not. And reason is yes, you might have a floodplain manager at your community that deals with this every day. But you as an emergency manager or folks that work in local communities or maybe even not, also should be aware of what you work with in terms of where the floodplain is located. And I'll give some examples. One, your floodplain manager does building permits and things like that. That's a given. But say I see Joaquin on here, and like UDOT projects, bridges are functionally dependent of floodplains. So we should be reviewing, flood risk information in that sense. Those emergency managers on the call, maybe we don't put shelters or emergency evacuation routes or things like that in or where we have identified where flood risk is located. Or maybe your infrastructure, your community's infrastructure. We looked really hard at some of our facilities, our state facilities, to see whether or not they're in the floodplain and to see if those could be mitigated. Because obviously we want to function during an event if that's happening or post event. So kind of keep that in mind. So it's not just for permitting, it's not just for building, but just think about that in terms of what you do and how the flood risk plays into what you do. One more example I'll give, and then I'll be quiet and let Holly continue, is the windstorm. If we have, when we look at facilities that we're placing, like sites at emergency sites, like disaster recovery centers or places where we're putting in the windstorm, for example, debris. We obviously don't want to put them in the floodplain, and we can't if you want funds, FEMA funds for some of the recovery funds. So kind of think about it like that. So it might not just be, one thing or another, but think about it in terms of what you do and then kind of see how that flood risk plays into what you do. So, okay, with that, that's my soapbox, and I will turn it back over to Holly.
Hey, real quick before we get into the Jamboard, Will asked, how about putting either flood mitigation strategies or links to example of flood mitigation strategies or links to how to use sandbags in sandbagging operations? I should say he commented. Sorry, Will. He didn't ask. He just left that comment in the chat. So thanks, Will.
Yeah, well, that's why we wanted to do some case studies. So we have I have two in development actually, and I have information on the Logan River development flood mitigation strategy. Well, it's kind of a big of a broader strategy with the county and the city and the Utah State University and all these other partners, which I know you know about. But I have their information. I was going to use that was a great example. But Saratoga City has some good information on sandbags and sandbagging. So I want to highlight that in one of the upcoming case studies. So thank you for asking that. Yeah, so that is coming. Yeah, if there's any other particular strategies you're interested in, then let's go to the Jamboard and you can just plop it on there. I'm now giving you the link to the Jamboard in the chat. I'm going to move on over there and share my screen. There we go. Can you see it?
Yep, it's on.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
So what I thought, Jeff and I were talking about this a lot, like what's the easiest way to do this? I was thinking maybe you could just go over here and take the pen, maybe choose a brighter color, not the black, and then just put click your cursor and put a little mark there, a little hash mark. And if you want to do, anybody who's interested in having this information on levy risk, put something, see there. But now we have to get rid of that because I can't vote. Because this is already my vote.
So, Holly, some of them are having issues of getting access to it. So
Really?
I think they can see it. I'm just not 100% sure they can write on it, which is fine. They can write their questions or their comments in the chat and then I can just read them to you. And we can just go that way as well.
Okay. Yeah. If you're going to use the chat, just tell us which, I was thinking the top 3, like what are the top 3 ones here that you would like to see? But we don't have to, you know what? I'm going to change the rules. Just go ahead and put any of the ones you think would be helpful for you personally. Okay? Any of them. So as many, if you want to put hash marks on them all, go ahead, but try to have a top tier maybe that's most you really think would be professionally or personally of interest to you. And then if there's something that you can think of or something even more specific here that a specific part of one of these, you can either do a sticky note and put your great idea over here, like that, or you could do it in chat.
Hey, so is everybody familiar with how to use the Jamboard? She's given some good examples on how to, but again, if you don't have access, just throw it in the chat and then I'll read out the questions. There's a couple right now.
In the chat, you ready?
Mm-hmm. So Joaquin, you're making me read that big word. Alluvial fan. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Perfect.
Gold
I'm going to
star.
owe Joaquin a favor right there. So Alluvial fan. His other one was online floodplain map, and then the floodplain map maintenance. Those were his top 3.
Okay. And we're going to keep this up. Don't get rid of this because I want to write all these things down. Right now I'm just kind of talking, but I want to write all these things down before we close this down when the meeting ends. So your comments won't be lost.
Holly, I can cut and paste it for you, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get it. Hey, so Ember she left a comment, kind of question. And Ember, if I didn't say this right, go ahead and jump on and you can ask your question. But I think she gave sandbagging tips and left a link there for post-wildfire and dealing with strategies that way as well. And then Jason Bradley, sorry, go ahead, Ember.
I was just on Will. So that sounded like a question, but I wasn't question.
Ooh.
Okay, Amber, yeah, you were a little broken up
Yeah.
and had a hard time hearing. Sorry. But she's going again. Hey, Jason Bradley left C, D, and F. So online floodplain map maintenance, and then changes in risk due to climate changes. Those are his top 3.
Okay. So do you think that, Jeff, do you think only people in the state of Utah have the Jamboard? Is that the case? Is that the problem? We didn't think of that.
No.
Oh, well.
They're all local anyway.
Okay. Well, we get the information anyway. Good old chat. And if you think of something later, if you go to oops, not that one, not that one, that one, this one, the website, and you go into floodplain specialists. What information would you like to see on our website? Got any mitigation work you would like to showcase with us? So you can just click on this, and that will give you send you to a Google form, and I'll get the information. Or you can write me. We also have write me or Jamie. Here's our information. So it looks like most people are doing chat, but we do have this on votes for online flood map and video on how to read a flood map.
Yeah, and we can, when you get done and we post this on YouTube, we'll put all these links and your your contact info, so they can reach out to you guys, to you and Jamie as well, after they watch this again and send ideas or questions, and that'll be a good way as well to contact you guys and send their questions to you.
Okay, I've taken a screenshot of the Jamboard, and then also I'll be able to actually get to it later. And I'm going to stop sharing because I see that we're actually coming close to time.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to share, Holly, or if there's any questions, since, as Holly said, we're getting close to time, for Holly, and if you do have some that you don't want to post or you don't want to ask on this, again, we'll put a link to where you can contact them and ask questions as well. So
one thing I thought I would share is that link to the PDF. Let me get to it. I gave it to you, Jeff. Do you have it? Do you happen to have it? The PDF. I'll probably find it before I finish the sentence. And that is, there it is. Okay, I'm going to put it in chat. This is a flyer about the website that you can post in your office, so that people that this might be good information for, that they would be able to they'll know about the website, and they'll know the address. And, yeah, I got to update that with a QR code, but I will be doing that. It's one of my to-do list items. But anyway, so go to the chat, get that flyer and post it, and because I think a lot of people don't know we're out there yet, that they don't know this site is live yet.
Yeah, now that's a lot of good information. The website's amazing. You did a good job, Holly, and appreciate you presenting on that. Again, I'm going to ask if anybody have questions. If not, I'm going to thank Holly for her presentation today. And then as a reminder, these webinars, again, are all, and the whole series are on the DEM website at dem.utah.gov/exercises. And now you can find them on dem.utah.gov/iwonder. So our next webinar will be held on May 3rd. And the topic that we'll be discussing then with Skylar is, I wonder how to use project management and emergency management. Also, before I end, if any of you guys have any I Wonder topic suggestions that you would like to hear or learn more about, we're kind of changing the I Wonder series and going a little bit more informational versus seminar and workshop. So if there's any topics or any suggestions that you guys would really, really like to know about and that we could present on, just reach out to me at jeffrankum@utah.gov, and then just send the topic you'd like, and we'll get it on the calendar. I can either you can present it or I will find a presenter. As always, we're excited to help you guys explore and get to know our DEM processes and anything that we can help to offer the emergency management community. So with that being said, until next time, keep wondering. I appreciate y'all coming and joining our webcast. Thanks again, Holly. Appreciate it.